Izuku Midoriya was born just like anybody else. His world, though, has changed so drastically in a matter of seconds. Because when he arrives at the doctor's, when he begins to hear that he has no quirk at the young age of only 4 years old, his life felt like it was crashing to the ground. His mother would feel absolutely terrible for him, and frankly, Izuku didn't know what to do. He wanted to be like All Might. He wanted to be just like them, but the doctor would slide over and say that they actually have an opportunity. And this is something that only very, very few are capable of doing. And the mom, or Inko Midoriya, would be like, well, what is that? What are you guys talking about? And the doctor would say that it seems like Izuku has a special genetic build that would be perfect for their, well, experiment. And it's a procedure that would allow him to gain a quirk, in which Izuku would immediately dart his eyes toward Inko Midoriya, or his mother, and would think to himself, like, this is my chance, I can have a quirk. But of course, immediately Inko's thinking, this is not a good idea. Like, this feels like it's not the best idea in the world to actually approach this way. Now, Izuku's looking at her like, oh, are we going to do this? Is this a good idea? And initially, his mother says no. That this is not a good idea, and that she doesn't know if she even trusts this so-called doctor, at least not right now. She doesn't say this in front of Izuku, or doesn't even say it in front of the doctor to this point, but she declines, or at least declines momentarily, and then they leave. Izuku is absolutely angered by this. I mean, he is very frustrated. I mean, he's saying that this was his chance, and that why doesn't she let him try, and all this stuff. But Inko says that her job is to be his protector, that she is his mother, and she's going to make the best choices she possibly can. And that's exactly what she feels that she's doing. She doesn't know if this is the best idea for him, like, at all. And she wants to make sure that this is all safe, that everything's gonna be okay if he does decide to do this. But soon, she would realize how costly of a mistake it was to say no in the first place, because soon something horrible would happen. A couple nights later, in just the matter of a week, they would hear things going on inside the house, crackling, moving, and other stuff like that. And eventually, you could hear a loud scream. That loud scream would awaken Izuku, and he would come bolting to his door, opening it up, and then he immediately would get grabbed by somebody. Now, he would not know what's going on. He has no idea, and a car would drive extremely fast, and eventually it would stop. They would exit the car and head to a bit of a facility, and Izuku would be placed basically inside a certain area, and he would stop and he would look around. He would ask, what's going on? I mean, seriously, what's happening? In which they say that, well, someone intruded on their home, and actually they saved him, but unfortunately they couldn't save his mother, in which they're obviously lying. But Izuku, being a young kid, he has no idea, like, at all. He hears all this stuff about, oh, his mother's passing and his mother's gone, and then obviously he says that only if he was stronger, only if he could have protected her, maybe something could have happened, maybe he could have done something. But of course, the scientists use this to their own backing, saying that he can be stronger, he can be given a quirk, just trust them and they'll be able to give him what he wants. In which Izuku, not having much of a choice, agrees, taking on whatever they're saying, and they begin to inject him with different, what seems to be like serums. And Izuku hears something about it being called something specific, but he's not 100% sure what they're talking about. It's called something V. They're not sure, or he's not sure, but it's called something V, and he's not 100% sure what they're even talking about. But they continue to give him doses of this so-called drug, and they continue to give it to him slowly but surely and begin to test what he's capable of doing. In the beginning, it all started with him just trying to break what is known as a cinder block, or something that is kind of fragile enough for him to shatter with a bit of super strength. And he continues to rack up different items that he can destroy, and different things that he can actually just straight up crush. And he continues to do this over and over again, and they continue to inject him with what he figures out later to be known as Compound V. It seems to be giving him super strength, but also just powers in general. But as they continue to give him these doses of Compound V, very experimental doses of Compound V, they continue to ramp up the tests. Eventually, they bring in different things to actually hit Izuku with, slamming him with a bat, with a ply of wood, with anything you can think of. Maybe even throw rocks at him, and eventually shoot metal BBs to even regular bullets. Izuku would be getting practically tortured to this point. I mean, yes, he is for the most part like durable as heck now because of the Compound V, but at the same time, it's not fully taking a fort, it's not fully in development within his body. The Compound V is slowly but surely making its way through his bloodstream, and also slowly but surely making his body stronger, tougher, faster, everything you could think of. And he even gains laser vision. Yeah, laser vision. But right now, Izuku continuously is being experimented on. They give him certain things, they make him break certain things, they make him endure certain things, even ramping up temperatures like 130 degrees, 140 degrees, 150 degrees, and higher, trying to make him the perfect lab rat or test subject. And now to this point, all Izuku can think about is, where is his mother? That he wishes his mother was still alive, that he misses her so much. And he says this on multiple occasions. And well, for a mental test, they bring in a picture of his mother, in which he thanks them, like, oh, thank you so much, like, I've been missing my mother, blah blah blah. And to this point, Izuku has grown up quite a bit. He's kept up with his studies because they've kind of forced him to be somewhat intelligent, but he has kept up with his studies to a large point, and he now has a picture of his mother. But as he has this picture of his mother, and he's looking at it, and he begins to cry just a little bit, he could feel the tears begin to melt away, as if they're evaporating into the air. He looks to the side and sees that they have now cranked up the temperature once again, 150, 160, 170, all the way up until 200, to the point that the picture that he's holding in his hands is burning and now is melting away. The picture of his mother no longer there, and completely burned to a crisp. He begins to get very frustrated. They tell him that this is a mental test, that if he wants to be like All Might, if he wants to be strong, if he wants to be the next top pro hero, then he needs to be able to endure this mental test, this physical test, and every test to date. He needs to be able to endure them all. In which Izuku focuses and thinks to himself that maybe this is what his mother would have wanted, for him to endure, for him to try his absolute hardest, for him to make sure that he can become a pro hero. So he endures it all, the heat, the beatings, and all of this. And it gets to the point, really, when he's around 12-ish years old, that he's practically indestructible from everything they're utilizing. Bullets, fully automatic guns, even explosions. I mean, he doesn't even get hurt by any of this. It seems like he can tank it all. And then on top of that, he's able to endure like crazy levels of heat, crazy levels of mental, or some what seems to be mental torture. But what the scientists don't understand is that enduring mental torture is one thing, but actually learning from mental torture is another. And at the end of the day, they are creating somebody that is going to realize in his mind that all he needs to worry about, all he cares about, is going to be himself, self-preservation, And even more than just that, he's going to make sure that he's just focused on the dream that he seeks after. Now, with that said, there's more to this, way beyond all of this torture and testing. Because when he's around 15 years old, or 14 or 15 years old, he would then, be allowed to leave the facility and would begin to start his process with different support heroes and different people all around to construct the person that he's going to be. And this is when he's introduced into the idea of Homelander, a baby crashing down to Earth, and also being granted these powers, or having these powers, and he's practically, yes, an alien. And Izuku doesn't really like this idea. I mean, he's on Earth. I mean, he's always been a child that was on Earth. So why would they do that? Why would they make it so, oh, he's an alien, this and that? Couldn't they just make it so he was gifted these insane powers, these powers that really nobody else has, in which they would immediately say that they can't do that, that it doesn't make enough sense, and they might even get looked into. So they need to go with the story of, well, that he crashed on Earth, that he was found by these two people, being that his new parents, and then basically he was molded to be one of the greatest superheroes, and right now is the start of his true journey. And it all starts with going to UA High School, in which he hears this and thinks, wow, wait, this is amazing. He wants to go to UA High School. This has been his dream, and this would be the best fast track to him going or being a pro hero. So he takes on the story of Homelander, Izuku, or Earth name Izuku Midoriya. Homelander is someone that was crashed down on Earth and basically had all of these superpowers, raised, on a normal playing ground, and then, or playing kind of like, on a farm or something. And then eventually he started training to become a hero, and now he's destined for UA High School. They tell him that they're going to get his suit ready for him. They're going to get all of these things ready for him. And after a couple of days, he does have the ability to don his suit. The red, the blue, all the colors. And now it's like kind of crazy. He's looking at it and he thinks to himself, I mean, why does this look like something from the United States? I mean, seriously. In which they all stand there, and, well, the realization comes over Izuku that he's been talking to a bunch of people that have been having some very, very scuffed, very, very average, let's just say, Japanese. And let's just say that he didn't even realize this at this moment, but he did. To be fair, he was 4 years old, but it was a very scuffed version of it. And they begin to say that it's because actually they're from the United States, and they left out a bit of a detail that they were going to tell him, and I guess they have to tell him now. And it's that not only have they come from the United States, but he has to don the suit of the United States because he was also, well, landed there and then traveled here. In which this would confuse Izuku. Like, what are they even talking about? Like, this makes no sense at all. But he kind of just takes it with a grain of salt and says that, like, whatever, like, he'll go and he'll be the symbol of the United States, but in Japan. But he also tells them that it'd probably be a better idea to get him a suit that at least has maybe the Japan flag, or have a little bit of inspiration with Japan. Just a thought, maybe that would be a good idea. In which they all think to themselves that they probably should have thought about that themselves, but you know what? It doesn't matter now. So Izuku would then head off and be ready for his first day at the UA entrance exam. Yeah, the UA entrance exam is still going to be a part of this idea, and Izuku would have to do the written and also the practical portion of it. Now, this is where things are a little tricky, right? Because the written portion is going to be a little bit difficult for Izuku. It's not going to be easy by any means. I mean, yes, he has been taught quite a bit, and he's been helped out here and there, but his learning hasn't been amazing. And eventually he would realize, like, he doesn't know, like, a good little chunk of all of these things. But luckily enough, that it's okay. Like, he's gonna still be able to pass the written portion, and just because he squeaks by the written portion, he knows he's gonna be able to blow away the practical portion of the exam, so there should be no issues there at all. He begins to actually head off to the practical, donning the suit of Homelander, or his suit, and everybody would look at him like, whoa, like, what is this guy doing? Like, what is he wearing? And eventually they would realize why he's wearing such an insane outfit or hero costume on the first day. It's because the dude can fly. Yeah, because when the gates would open, he would begin flying forward, chucking himself through robot after robot after robot, destroying each robot almost instantaneously, and then obliterating some more using his laser vision. Even when the 0 Point robot comes out, he would laser it as well, killing it or destroying it almost instantly. Now, this is where Izuku's, like, you know, attitude and different raising and all that would come into play, because people would be in awe about him. Would be like, oh my god, he's so cool, like this and that. And some people would even try to talk to him after the fact and after he absolutely destroys the practical exam. And Izuku would just ignore him, thinking that he's just so much better than them. And he would kind of give him a little bit of a, like, don't talk to me, like, there's nothing to, like, kind of be known here, right? But he does try to say it in the best way possible, like, oh, like, I have to go right now, blah, 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 right? He doesn't want to talk to anybody, but he also was taught that he does need to get on the good side of the masses, right? The heroes that are around him, I mean, whatever, right? He really just needs to be somewhat cordial. And as long as he's somewhat cordial, it doesn't necessarily even matter. Like, he's just somewhat cordial with them, and he just, you know, talks decently nice to them, and everything's good. I mean, it's really that simple. Now, with other people, with other people, like interviews and stuff like that, he's going to make sure that he utilizes everything that his PR team has taught him. But for now, it doesn't really matter. It's not really that big of a deal at the moment. And he would just be awaiting the very next the very next time he would be able to enter UA, and that would be very, very soon, because Izuku would eventually get the letter from UA High School telling him that he actually passed the entrance exam. And this wasn't surprising at all. I mean, Izuku really thought he was going to pass the entrance exam. I mean, there was no kind of like contemplation. There was no like, oh, I'm not so sure if I'm going to be able to do this or whatever. No. Like, he was pretty much like on spot, on the, like, he knew he was going to be able to do this and obviously be able to pass this exam with flying colors, right? He knew he would be able to. So it's not really surprising, at least not to him, that he was able to have this success. Now, with that said, Izuku would kind of just be waiting, and then once he gets this letter and he gets into UA, he would be told that he actually is one of the higher scores. He did have the highest practical exam score, but since his score for the written exam was a little bit lower, but hands down, he's still ranked so much higher than some of the other people. He's just ranked a little bit lower than what he should have been, and a little bit lower than some of the people that got a high practical score, but also a pretty damn high written exam score. So that's kind of just what happens. And Izuku would be basically told by his scientists people that he's basically just going to go into UA, do his job, you know, when the opportunity arises, make sure to basically take the front stage, you know, take the center stage and get the publicity that they need, right? This is someone that fell out of the sky, you know, someone that is here to protect them, someone to take the mantle of All Might. That's who he's supposed to be. So every chance he gets, he needs to be able to show everybody that his capabilities, his strength, and so much more, that he's going to be the guy to do everything, and that he's going to be the guy to replace All Might when things begin to change. Now, with that said, I mean, they are not telling him. They decide not to tell him quite a few things that I'm sure they're going to be benefiting from, starting with Compound V, the idea of basically utilizing this drug to make stronger beings. And of course, they're not going to tell him like, oh yeah, by the way, Homelander is actually on Compound V, and that's the reason why he's so strong. No, but they are going to deal in governmental affairs and stuff like that, and they're going to use Homelander or Izuku Midoriya as their front runner. And they're basically going to say, hey, like, look how successful this one was, blah, 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 this and that, and so on. Now, with that said, Izuku would head off to his first day of UA High School. And the first day, well, it'd be a pretty basic one. And it wouldn't get too crazy until really, of course, Aizawa would begin saying all of these things about, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be doing a quirk assessment, everyone get outside, blah, 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 and so on, right? That's just the Aizawa way. So outside of that is nothing crazy for this assessment, or nothing crazy for the first day. And Izuku, he would pass every single part of this quirk assessment with flying colors. And everybody would begin asking him, like, are you really an alien? Did you really fall from the sky? And which Izuku would say, yeah, like, that's what happened. You know, his birth parents found him one night, just, you know, in a like, you know, in this weird spaceship of some sorts. And yeah, so they saved him, you know, raised him and stuff like that. And yeah, he has these powers and so on. In which they ask him, does he understand, you know, where they truly come from? Like, where's his powers come from, really? And he says, like, no, you know, not really. But really, they should just focus on doing what they're doing right now. And that's it. In which Aizawa would agree and tells him that it seems like he's going to like the kid, because he's very all business, at least at what it seems like. And Izuku nods, thinking to himself, like, this is probably a good person to have like him, or, you know, actually a good person that should basically like him, or should basically respect him and think that he's actually a good person, or actually beneficial to have around, right? Now, with that said, he passes everything with flying colors, like everything. He's able to easily throw the ball like into the stratosphere, basically, and then he's easily able to win a race, grip strength test. Like, I mean, Izuku has super strength, he has flight, laser vision. I mean, he has everything you could possibly think of. And, well, let's just say the one thing he does lack is combat experience, but a lot of that will come from UA, specifically martial arts. That's something that he doesn't really have, or that's something that he lacks massively, but he does have the ability just to rely on his flat out raw strength and his ability to just straight up just one punch anybody and absolutely obliterate anybody who he sees fit. But yeah, with that said though, quirk assessment test, easy peasy. He would easily be able to win or defeat the quirk assessment test, actually getting number 1 in the quirk assessment test, in which this wouldn't surprise Aizawa. I mean, the kid got the highest score in the practical exam. He just didn't get very high scores in the written exam. And that's something that he's going to have to learn from, and a hurdle he's going to have to deal with in the near future. And this whole testing situation would continue going on, and it would lead us into him actually training with the number 1 hero, All Might. But it's not really training with him, it's kind of training under the supervision of him, because they would have something known as heroes versus villains training, in which it would be him and Ochako Uraka versus Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida, in which Bakugo would see this and would begin to say that Izuku looks familiar. I mean, seriously. I mean, he looks like he's someone that he knew from the past and someone that he knew before. But he used to be such a Deku, in which Izuku says that, well, he's been an alien this entire time, and that he's been kind of powerful this entire time, but unfortunately it hasn't come about until recently. And then he had to basically go away. And then, yeah, and he couldn't stick around people like Bakugo and them and so on. In which Bakugo would say, like, do you think you're better than us? Like, you think you're better than me? Like, you're not better than me, and so on and so forth. In which Izuku would say that he left because he needed to hone his powers, to understand them, get them better. And yes, he is an alien, and yes, he didn't really talk about it, but he also didn't talk about it to anybody as well. He straight up did not say a single word to a single person, and that includes Bakugo. he was never going to tell him like, oh yeah, I'm an alien, by the way. No, he would never do that. And of course, this is a little bit of gaslighting because, well, you know, he's not actually an alien, but still he would be saying these things. And like I said, he would be very coached on how to handle these situations, at least to a large extent. And he would then kind of be ignored, and leading us into the actual match that Izuku was somewhat waiting for, right? You have Ochako Uraka, and you have him, and versus Tenya Ida and Katsuki Bakugo. Now, this is a simple one. Touch the bomb, you win. It's that simple, truly. It's that simple. And let's just say this is not something that is going to be hard by any means for Izuku. He just grabs Ochako and flies her up, and they just enter through a window, touching the bomb almost instantly. And of course, this would embarrass her a little bit because, I mean, you have this, you know, guy that's just like straight up carrying you by flying and just flying up top. But of course, this would be kind of, you know, oblivious to Izuku for the most part. He wouldn't really pay much attention to it. All he's thinking about right now is finishing all of these, you know, these scenarios, you could say, this training and all of these things that he has to deal with overall. That's all he's really thinking about right now. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's making sure to get the job done. That's the main thing, getting the job done. Now, he does watch everyone else do their whole heroes versus villains training, but he can tell that none of these people that are here have extremely strong quirks. Like, it's obvious that Izuku, he's the most powerful. He can tell it, and he might even be the most powerful among everybody. Like, he might be stronger than literally everybody, like, in UA already, if not in the hero sphere already. But that's a whole nother question in itself, right? He doesn't actually know how strong he is. I mean, he could be, right? He could be stronger. He could be better. I mean, he thinks he is, but that's kind of beyond the point, right? But yeah, he could definitely be stronger and faster and better than everyone there at this moment already. But imagine how much better he'll be when he starts getting proper training. Like, this hero training, yeah, it's whatever, right? Nothing crazy. But once he starts training to actually learn, like, you know, maybe like martial arts, better hand-to-hand combat, maybe utilization of his quote-unquote quirk better, or his powers better, he might even be able to just gain even more power, even more strength, even more capabilities in the long run. But let's just say this, he has more and more potential as they go along, and as they learn more and more from other heroes, that potential will continue to grow. But will he truly be able to, like, bite down on the ego and learn from these other heroes? Well, that's a conversation for another time. But the very next day, if not a couple days after, they have a new training regimen to actually adhere to, and that is rescue training. And this is with 13 or Pro Hero 13. Now, with that said, they have to head over to the USJ for their own rescue training. But this rescue training is going to go off the rails quicker than you could possibly imagine. Because the rescue training that's supposed to be implemented is going to be drastically changed when actual villains show up. Now, this is a question for Izuku. Is this right here a plan, or, you know, an idea from the scientists or from the people, the PR people that he's been dealing with? Or is this an actual attack by the villains? Nonetheless, he's right here to show off and show what he's capable of. And on top of that, he's ready to show everyone why he has the potential and is going to be the next All Might, if not better than All Might himself. Now, with that said, the USJ is upon us, but that's going to have to be for the next episode or the next part of What If Deku Was Homelander. Izuku Midoriya is at the USJ. Yeah, the USJ. And this is where things are going to change drastically for the young hero, some may say. Because this version of Izuku is so much different, than your normal version of Izuku Midoriya. This version of Izuku has full intention of making sure that he ends the lives of villains and gets the people on his side, or at least the people he believes need to be on his side. Now, with that said, when Shigaraki, when Kurogiri, and many of the other villains show their face, and portals begin to open up and villains begin to spew out, when Izuku is actually taken by mild surprise and taken away through a portal, he would end up in a giant lake. Yeah, a giant lake. And this giant lake would be a pretty basic one, because he'd just fly straight out of it. And he would immediately be looking at the other villains that are within the water, and he would begin to use his heat vision, and he would begin to boil the water as it begins to bubble over and absolutely boil the people in there to their very core. Yeah, absolutely destroying them. Immediately, Izuku jumps into action, grabbing Asui and Mineta and putting them in a safe area. But when he arrives, he sees that Aizawa is taking down a ton of villains, and he decides to take it upon himself to mow them down, flying through, absolutely destroying every last one of them, and frankly, killing a lot of them. Because this is where things are different for Izuku Midoriya. Izuku has been taught to end the lives of a villain, and he's been taught not to hesitate. And, well, you know, he's been taught all those things in a very not so nice, not so loving, not so friendly way. Izuku has been taught these things because he can do these things. He's been taught these things because the people who created the person he is today believe he is strong and powerful enough and just above everyone to the point that he can do these things. And he mows every single one of them down, so much so that Shigaraki himself realizes the threat that is in front of him, actually being kind of scared, thinking to himself that this guy right here, he's a villain, that this guy is, he's a freak, he has villainous tendencies. He just killed, he just ended the lives of so many without even a second thought. And let's just say many people there, including like Aizawa, the teachers, and also the students, they're out here thinking, oh my goodness, this is insane. What did he just do? He just killed people. Now, this is something some of them are thinking, but quite a few of them are also thinking that this is what needed to be done, that this is what needed to happen, that we're just trying to protect ourselves. They invaded us, in which a lot of people are thinking that they just flat out invaded us, and this is what needed to happen. If it didn't happen, they would have all died, or possibly died. Now, with that said, we dive into Izuku actually basically defeat or killing all of those villains, and then leading us to Shigaraki actually sicking the Nomu on Izuku. And this fight is one that isn't a simple one, because the Nomu is stronger than anything Izuku Midoriya has ever fought, or stronger than anything Deku has ever faced down in his entire life. The Nomu is a threat, and when they begin to fight, he realizes that his lasers, his punches, they don't do as much damage as they thought they would do. So he begins to go all out. He begins to absolutely, well, be as serious and as powerful as possible. He's never gone full on out, so he doesn't even know what his capabilities are truly. And when he starts going what he thinks is his full strength, he begins to absolutely pound on the Nomu, destroying its regenerative abilities as he continues to basically laser off the Nomu's body parts bit by bit, as the regeneration would slowly deteriorate. As well, the Nomu continues to lose limbs or parts of limbs. He would slowly but surely be losing to Izuku, and the reinforcements would then arrive with All Might and a couple others, and this is where things would sway heavily in the hero's favor. But that also would be a time where a lot of the heroes would look at it and believe that this was insane, that a kid was able to mow down an entire fleet of villains and basically stop them instantaneously, but through massive, brutal measures. And that's exactly what happened, exactly what occurred. Shigaraki would then flee, well, with Kurogiri, and the Nomu would lay there dismembered, obliterated, alongside many other villains at the moment. They would all be laying there completely destroyed, for the most part, and Izuku would be standing a little bit bloody, but also he would stand with high pride in himself, and let's just say everybody would be kind of at a standstill. One of the students just killed a mass amount of villains, and a lot of these villains, well, let's just say they might have been able to just be captured and put in prison. Now, that's not what happened. Izuku mowed them down, killed them, destroyed them, and that's exactly what a lot of people there are questioning right now. And let's just say things would start to get a bit out of control, because Yue would begin trying to more or less discipline him, basically saying like you can't do that, and that he basically needs rehabilitation. That for the most part, Izuku needs to be kind of changed in his own mind. But then there's another part of Yue that believes that it was a crisis situation and he chose the best option he possibly thought he could, and he saved and also kept everyone safe. So yes, he did kill and he did end the lives of many villains, but he also made a decision in a split second to make sure that everyone stayed safe. And this would split UA. Like, for the most part, everybody in UA would be split down the middle. Even teachers alike would, some would believe that Izuku made the right choice. Yes, killing isn't their first option, but heroes have done that multiple times. They have killed on multiple occasions, and on top of that, he's just a kid. And this kid has powers unimaginable, and on top of that, well, he made that decision to protect his classmates, his teachers, and the people around him, and he made that decision in a split second. He made that decision to make sure that everyone was safe, and he made the decision to make sure that they got out of there, more importantly, alive. That's the decision that was made. And like I said, UA would be split literally in half. Everybody would be completely on one side or the other. Now, this would help Izuku for the most part because, well, nobody would know who did it, but someone would begin to actually leak out information about what happened at the USJ, about the villain invasion, and about Izuku protecting your fellow classmates. And he basically, well, at the end of the day, shows or it's shown that Izuku protected as many people as he possibly could. And on top of that, well, let's just get it completely and utterly straight. Izuku protected himself, made sure that him, his classmates, but more importantly himself, he was safe. He wanted to make sure that he was safe, and that's exactly what he did. And when this would get out, a lot of people would side with Izuku. Now, of course, just like anything else, there would be a bit of a split. And that split would be, you shouldn't kill, and the other split should be, or is that he killed out of necessity. And this allows, or this whole idea of a split continues on throughout the entirety of Japan. So much so that if they punish Izuku, that there will be massive backlash for it. So in terms of punishing him in front of everybody, or punishing him by taking away public events, that's not an option. Especially because they can't just be like, oh, you're not allowed to participate in the UA Sports Festival. Because if they do that, there might be a bit of an uproar, especially in Japan itself, with half the people believing that a kid did what he decided and needed to do to flat out stay alive. So they decide to hold off on any global punishments, which would be like more like, him being punished by taking away this or taking away that. No. So they decided to keep it calm and basically do punishments involving at least training or kind of more studying or stuff like that, in which Izuku is getting a little better with stuff along the lines of basically studying, but for the most part he doesn't really like studying, and he kind of cheats off of people without many others even knowing. I mean, it's almost impossible to tell with Izuku because of his X-ray vision, but that's kind of beyond the point. Now, this would lead us to the UA Sports Festival. And I think most of everyone can understand that flying, being able to fly, especially as consistently as Izuku does, he would be able to easily get through the first obstacle very, very simply. And then on top of that, when he gets to the cavalry battle, whatever team he has is going to win. Now, flat out, not just because he's strong, not just because he has laser-eyed vision. No, well, he can also just flat out fly, using his strength to pick up everybody, flying them straight up, and they just automatically win because no one can even touch them. That's just the reality of it. And you could have maybe Bakugo attempt to try and fly up and try and grab their headband, but even Bakugo knows that that should not be the case, and that honestly he has a little bit more respect for Izuku himself, more because, well, he literally murdered a bunch of people. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Bakugo likes murdering, but I'm also not saying that Bakugo doesn't like the idea of Izuku taking action in the way he took action. Now, he is definitely more on the side of Izuku, but he's not like fully supremacist side of Izuku or anything like that. But yeah, he is definitely on the side of him. So he's probably not going to go out of his way to like aggro onto Izuku, thinking, oh, I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm stronger. I mean, he's going to get that chance later on. And, well, he's definitely going to when they do the 1-versus-1 fights. Because that 1-versus-1, or those 1-versus-1 fights are 1000% going to happen. And Izuku, well, he's going to be a part of them 100%. Because when the cavalry battle ends and he gets first place, his first fight would be against Shinso. Shinso would be someone interesting because, I mean, they have no idea what he does. And frankly, nobody wants to tell Izuku for the most part what he does. Now, some people may agree with him in terms of what he did, but he's not really friends with anybody. Like, he hasn't been like a friendly person for the most part. I mean, he's definitely been kind of cordial, but he hasn't been friendly by any means. He's kind of been whatever, right? So Shinso, or going into this, was definitely blind. And when Shinso would start talking all of this smack to Izuku, Izuku would fall for it. I mean, he would flat out talk back to Shinso and could feel this rush go over his body. But soon he would realize that quirk, at least the stage of the quirk that it's right now, has no effect on him. I mean, it did give him this weird chill, and it felt like his body twitched for a second, like it was going to do its own thing. But at the end of the day, it did absolutely nothing. The quirk that Shinso holds, being that of brainwash, didn't actually work on Izuku, and the powers that he holds basically protected him for the most part. Now, this would allow him to eliminate Shinso very, very, very quickly, and basically bring up the next match that's gonna go on. But there's a bit of a different situation, because when Izuku's walking out to the match, he runs into someone by the name of Endeavor. Yeah, the number 2 hero is now meeting with him. He tells Izuku that he wants his kid to utilize his fire side, and if he does that, he'll basically give him the opportunity to join Endeavor's agency and so on, and actually continue to more or less bolster his idea of being a hero, and bolster basically his his person itself, right? People will start actually looking at him like, oh, this is a very, very serious hero and so on. Because don't get me wrong, like, Endeavor's a good hero, quote unquote, but he's definitely killed some people. I mean, like, accident or not, he's definitely killed some people. And they'll definitely look at Izuku's partnership with Endeavor, or kind of joint type of partnership with Endeavor, as a positive thing. And they might look at him in an even better light in the long run. Now, with that said, though, we're talking Izuku getting Todoroki to utilize his fire side is not really something that he really thinks he can do. I mean, he is not a smooth talker or anything, but he can talk some smack, so maybe he can shit talk his way into getting Todoroki to do that. And he says that when he does it, I mean, he's expecting a lot from Endeavor, especially an internship and a work study spot, and then eventually a major agency spot. He would pat on Endeavor's shoulder as he flies off into the stadium and as he faces down Shoto Todoroki. Now, this match in itself isn't a competitive one, but he does completely just shit talk Todoroki the entire time. He is smack talking Todoroki, telling him that he's slow, that he's useless, that he can't do anything, and especially if he's not going to use his fire side. He continues to basically just mess with Todoroki, push him aside, throw him here, there, everywhere, but not allow him to fall off the stage. Eventually, his flames would erupt, and it's mostly out of anger. This is exactly what Endeavor wanted, his flames to erupt, but honestly, out of anger is just a bonus for Endeavor. Izuku and then Todoroki would begin clashing with their biggest moves, but like I said, this fight isn't really a close one, and Izuku would still defeat him even though he utilized both his ice and fire quirks together. And what seemed to be the perfect quirk seems to fall once again to, well, this alien that was sent down from space. And a lot of these people, well, they really do believe that. They believe that Izuku is this alien, that it's wild, that he has all of these powers. I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to be just utilizing a quirk or whatever. He has to be some extraterrestrial to a large degree. And some people would would kind of think that this is a good thing, but also some would think it's a bad thing, because they would think, well, this guy, he's not like us, right? And on the other side is like, well, this guy might be just better than us. I mean, he's come from the sky, right? Like a god. And this is where people would begin looking at Izuku and idolizing him, even though he's just a kid. And, there's a lot of issues with that, or revolving around that. And that's definitely the acknowledgement that is going to be made. Now, with that said, their fights continue on, but we all know how this ends. It all ends with just Izuku winning and Bakugo losing to him. Now, this is where things massively change, though, because the villains who are watching, they don't see Bakugo as a target. Who they see as a target that they could flip is Izuku Midori. I mean, Izuku has a villain-like tendencies, and at the end of the day, he seems very villainous in what he does. And they believe that maybe if they got a hold of him and they are able to talk to him, they might just be able to actually transfer him to that villain side. So they may do a bit of planning and get some information, learning that Endeavor is truly going to offer him a spot in an internship, and they would assume that he will be around for more or less a attack on a city. So they're going to use that as their way of trying to speak with Izuku briefly. Now, before we get to that, though, we have Endeavor, we have Izuku, and we have Todoroki going off to Endeavor's agency, or kind of like an internship for now, basically to train, learn, and stuff like that. And Endeavor does see a lot of himself in Izuku, but he's still prideful of his own son. This would basically just lead them to doing something a bit drastic, and that would be going to the most crime city in, well, Japan, being that of Hosu City. And when they all three head out over there, let's just say things would hit the fan extremely quickly. because Izuku would be isolated from many of the other heroes and would actually be approached by somebody. And that person that he would be approached by, well, is someone that is a bit familiar. And that would be Shigaraki. Shigaraki would approach him and would have full intentions of not fighting or anything like that. He would even tell him that, saying he's not here to fight, not here to do anything like that. But he asks him, does he want anything? Does he want to have everything? Does he want people to be loyal to him? Do people to cherish him? To think of him as the greatest? Does he want respect? Because that's what they could give him. They could make it so that he can have anything he ever wanted in life and more. But all he has to do is join them. Join the League of Villains and join their own crusade. Their own crusade to cleanse the world. Because that's what they're doing. They're going to do something so much different. And as Shigaraki is about to finish his last word, he would get his throat basically grabbed by Izuku. Izuku would lift him up, and Shigaraki would begin to panic, and Izuku tells him that if he even thinks about putting a finger on his arm, he will burn it off with his laser vision. And he tells Shigaraki he needs to listen and listen very closely. That he does want everything. That he wants anything in this world, and he wants everything he ever sought after. But the way he's going to get it is through means of his own, and he's going to be cherished by people. He's going to be enjoyed by people, and people are going to look at him like the greatest hero alive. Not some scumbag villain that should get his head torn off right now. But Izuku lets him down and says that he may not be a villain, and he may not join him the way he wants to join him in the League of Villains. But guess what? He knows that he needs Shigaraki alive. At least for now. In which he lets Shigaraki go in a matter of seconds. And then he would fly off, going to basically take out any of these other villains that are in Hosu City, resisting the urge to just mow them down and kill them. But let's just say he's gaining massive favor as they speak. But with the invasion of Hosu City, with everything that's going on, things are massively going to change, and the internships will have to be cut short. This would eventually lead them into actually taking their final exams, and Izuku, well, let's just say his final exam would be a little bit different than everyone else's. Because after the internship incident and after the USJ incident, they have to take some interesting measures to make sure that Izuku himself understands the value of restraint. Well, at least that's their hope. At the end of the day, that's what they're going to try to teach Izuku. Actually try to hold back and not absolutely murder people. Now, this is a lesson that Izuku is taking extremely lightly, but at the same time, it seems as if he's going to have to go through a long, arduous process of restraint. And it's actually kind of funny. They actually show him a bunch of cardboard beings that are from children to regular people to villains to crazy people or crazy looking people. And if he lasers a single one that is, innocent, immediately he would lose the challenge, and he would have to then basically go on to or do it once again and do it over and over and over again. And let's just say Izuku's patience would be tested massively as Aizawa watches him as he continues to basically, fail and fail and fail and fail and fail. And that's what happens. Izuku continues to fail, but this would just bring up more in his head this annoyance of this idea, like, why do we have to continue to do this? Why do we have to continue to hold restraint? That we are stronger, we can be better, our strength should be honored, should be should be shown a great deal of respect, that our strength should be honored. Our strength should be, we should be held higher than everyone else. But eventually Izuku would finally get past what he needed to get past so that he can head off to the forest training camp. But he didn't realize that this forest training camp would change everything, every last thing in his entire life, because once the forest training camp was over, it would give him an opening, a chance, and a change that he never thought would be absolutely possible. But for now, that it has to wait till part 3 of What If Deku Was Homelander. Izuku Midoriya is about to head off to his quote-unquote training camp. Now, this training camp is more or less going to be designed around the idea of helping Izuku understand how to properly utilize his strength. But his ideals, his ideas, and everything that is surrounding him has been built into him since he was practically born. We know that he's been raised by scientists, but he's also been raised by PR people that have a lot to do with, a lot of these people have a lot to do with the idea of taking down villains at all costs, but also you want to make the best headlines you possibly can. And right now, Izuku is making headlines along the lines of superhero and along the lines of villain as well, but still both publicity and both extremely good for Izuku himself. He has a what seems to be like a cult following that is currently building up, people believing that his way is actually the proper way to execute villains. Now, it's not like he's just running around killing villains willy-nilly. He's actually thinking about this thing. You know what I mean? So he's actually utilizing his powers to eliminate villains that are threatening people that are of high caliber, right? He's actually doing things to protect others, so it's not like he's killing out of just, fun and whatever. He's actually killing to make sure that things are going to stay the same or stay heroic for the most part. Now, right now, he has to deal with the forest training camp, which is a lot of learning from his quote-unquote mistakes, which he doesn't really think are mistakes. Now, he does play along for a little bit. He does some physical training on top of that, but his physical training is always kind of lackluster to a large extent. But then on top of that, he now basically is getting ready for his next jump into his hero journey, which would be leading into getting his provisional hero license and stuff like that. But of course, there are some hurdles that have to come through pretty quickly, and the first one is actually the League of Villains sieging and actually invading the forest training camp. The League of Villains would invade the forest training camp, and everybody would act on their own accord to try and defend themselves. Izuku Midoriya, on the other hand, would fly around looking for a villain to fight and a villain to eliminate. And eventually he would come across a villain by the name of Muscular, who is actually threatening a child by the name of Koda. And he would come spiraling down in a full speed fleet of damage, landing a crucial blow and basically knocking out Muscular almost instantly. But immediately, if Muscular tries to get up, or when he tries to get up, he would get knocked right back down and lasered through the chest. Now, this wouldn't penetrate his skin fully because Izuku was holding back a little bit, but the damage was dealt, and Muscular is extremely damaged from this attack. Now that Koda is safe, he picks up Koda and flies off to bring him to full-on safety, where the other villains are, or the other heroes are, excuse me. And then he flies off to take on the rest of the villains. And he continues to mow down and defeat and or eliminate some of these villains that he's flying across or just coming across in general. And he continues to just easily barrage these villains and continues to put on an absolute clinic. But this whole invasion, for the most part, is actually just a minor distraction. Because this minor distraction would be to actually capture one Bakugo. And when they capture Bakugo, it seems as if they have full intentions to either bait out Izuku or at least try to convert Bakugo into becoming one of the members of the League of Villains. Now, this was a interesting plan, and Izuku obviously has his own intentions on saving Bakugo, but it's for a totally different reason. When they would all head back home, they all head to the hospitals and stuff like that, Izuku is completely fine. He's not hurt, he's not anything. But a lot of people, a lot of the teachers, are trying to keep him in the same place. But soon he would be able to kind of slip away and go talk to some people. And those people, his PR quote-unquote people, are telling him that the best course of action is for him to find the person, find the League of Villains, save Bakugo. That's going to be insane publicity, and it's going to make him look amazing. And then on top of that, what he should do is defeat the League of Villains right then and there. But of course, that might be a lot of pressure to do so, and they might need them later on. But just put it this way. Ideally, you save Bakugo, you look like an absolute hero, and you've already leveled up compared to everyone else, and that's the main goal right then and there. And Izuku asks if there's any other circumstances that he should be worrying about, but of course they say no, nothing we can really think of at the moment. But they would be so wrong about this idea, because he should have been worrying about something, well, very, very important. And well, it all starts with this. Izuku Midoriya goes and hunts down using a GPS to find Katsuki Bakugo. And now that's an easy thing to do, and an easy little quest for him. And he's able to find the location of Bakugo relatively simply enough. And when he finds the location, he would swoop in and he would just blast his way through the entire League of Villains base, mowing through it, defeating and knocking out the majority of the villains there. People like Dabi, people like Toga and stuff like that, or anybody that is currently there would be easily defeated. And Shigaraki would kind of be the last person to be, or not alive, but the last person to be hanging on. The last person that would be not defeated. But Izuku follows the plan as he takes Bakugo and heads out and carries him away and allows him to fly next to him as they basically try to escape. Now, after they somewhat escape, Izuku would tell Bakugo that he make sure to put in a good word on the idea of him being saved pretty cleanly. And Bakugo kind of scoffs at this for the moment, until out of nowhere a portal would open up and would take both of them right back to where they started. But there's another person waiting for them. That's being All For One. All For One stands there completely still, as if he's just understands the overwhelming presence that he holds. But Izuku does not fear this man. And on top of that, of course, with Bakugo there too, Bakugo would not fear him either. But that's because Bakugo is brash and a little bit psychotic. But Izuku would not fear him at all, believing that this was a happy little accident, because now he gets the chance to take down one of the most absolutely treacherous villains ever in the world, maybe, or in Japan, but also probably even the world. Now, this would lead him to obviously taking on All For One with both Bakugo and himself. And on top of that, he would await the arrival of somebody like, well, All Might. And once All Might would arrive, while Izuku is flying around and trying to basically fight against All For One, when All Might would arrive, this would turn the tables almost instantly. Yes, we don't get to see if, well, Izuku could truly take All For One down by himself, but with the help of All Might, this fight is an easy one, and it leads to All Might actually not being severely injured ever or at all, or have to waste a ton of his strength, because with a combination of Izuku and All Might, really the number one hero in the future of the hero world, it seems as if they're able to punch All Might with a combined, well, United States of Smash, and defeat All For One in a matter of one foul swoop. And luckily enough, everybody is cheering. People are watching, and everybody is freaking out, saying that this kid, this person, this person who was deemed a hero named Homelander is truly going to be the next #1 hero, is truly going to be the next big thing. And that's exactly what they wanted. That's exactly what every last person wanted. But here's the thing. There's been a lot of whispers, a lot of conversation, and a lot of people talking. And all this publicity, let's just say, has risen him through the ranks, or at least has put him on a pedestal that many people believe that he should be out there being a hero already, and that he's ready right now. I mean, at the end of the day, he just helped defeat one of the strongest villains in the world. So a lot of people, they're thinking that he's worthy of that slot and worthy of that spot. And with all the murmurs, with all the talking, and with everything going on, let's just say people in the background of the picture are talking to somebody else. Because when Izuku's just at school, getting minor punishment because, he probably shouldn't have done that. It's probably pretty crazy of him to do that. But as he's doing these things, he would get approached by what seems to be an agent, and that agent would speak to him, saying that he has a place. He has a place to being a hero right now. And he asks, well, what agency? Like where? Like what agency are we talking about? Where could we be talking about? Where in Japan? Like, is it somewhere far away or what? In which he would bring up that it's actually in the United States, in which he would think is absolutely insane. What United is that? Was that the whole plan this entire time? Get me enough publicity and then move me out to the States or the United States of America? And in which they would say, well, not necessarily, but it actually worked perfectly. And the publicity would be even greater if he went out to the States. Yes, if he went to the USA, it would be even greater, the publicity that he could gain. In which he would ask why, and it's because of one person that offered him a spot in her agency, Star and Stripe, in which this would shock Izuku. And frankly, a lot of the people that are part of his PR, part of his agency and stuff like that are helping him are shocked as well. I mean, they don't even know how she got a hold of a lot of this information, but she wants to offer him a slot, and he could basically just, fulfill his high school requirements out there, which will be extremely easy for him, getting his somewhat like a GED of some sorts. In which he would think to himself, should he accept this or should he just stick to Japan? But he believes that, and a lot of others believe that he can always come back to Japan eventually. But for now, it might be a good idea for him to go off and actually go to USA and join one of the biggest agencies ever. Like, that is a big thing that needs to happen, and a big thing that everyone here believes should happen. So that's exactly what Izuku is going to do. Go and basically work with one of the biggest agencies ever, or at least biggest agencies ever involving the USA, or involving USA. Now, this would be a decision for Izuku, and a pretty big one, but luckily enough, he has some people, quote unquote, to advise him, and this is the decision that they should make. And it would be a pretty quick process, frankly. Like, Izuku would kind of get his things settled, get his his affairs in check, and then he would leave. And it's that simple. He would leave to USA, and during this time he would start learning how to speak English and stuff like that. But since the scientists and stuff like that had such horrible Japanese, and it was kind of like whatever, and he would even hear them speak English from time to time. It's kind of like ingrained in his brain from to an extent. He's heard a good little bit of English. It won't be too difficult of a period of time, and it seems as if his powers, or whatever he has within his body, actually allows him to adjust a little bit quicker. Maybe not like insanely quicker, but a little bit quicker. And during this time, during a flight, and also during the first couple of days of being in the States, he would kind of take these remedial English courses to allow him to just speak pretty clearly in front of people and stuff like that. All the good stuff that he'll need at least during this job. And eventually it would be time for him to meet everybody in his agency, and this is where he would meet some new people, some new faces. Of course, all he would really care about, in all honesty, is speaking with Star and Stripe. But he would meet a couple of people, introduce himself as Izuku Midoriya, other known as Homelander, and he would talk to them a little bit and stuff like that. But eventually, he would talk to the big boss, being that of Star and Stripe, and they would speak about what he's going to do, what he's capable of, and she just wants him to be a symbol, a symbol of this country and of these people, and on top of that, wants him to be ready and willing to take down some of these villains and stuff like that. But they are kind of iffy about their whole or his whole killing policy, and she just wants him to be a little bit careful. And Izuku agrees and thinks that it doesn't matter too much, but at the end of the day, he'll listen for now. And he goes on a couple missions, and these missions would be pretty basic ones. I mean, nothing crazy. Some just involving just small rescue, defeating a couple minor villains. But from what it seems like, is that the United States is not insanely populated with villains. Seems like Star and Stripe herself has dealt with a mass majority of these villains. And on top of that, he kind of just is in the sector of just a little bit of rescue, maybe crisis, and also if a really something important does occur, then he'll help out where he can along those lines. This would lead to a bit of an interesting thing happening, being that of there's some nearby areas that are needed to be protected, and also one that is actually pretty far out, and this place is known as Hawaii. And he actually heads out to Hawaii, and it seems as if nobody really goes out there. Superheroes alike, or heroes in general, don't really go out there very often, but it seems like they do actually need quite a bit of assistance, at least to an extent. And it's nothing crazy, but he does help out with taking out some villains. And on top of that, he does deal with a villain that is pretty damn scary. And this villain, well, let's just say he involves a lot of magma and a lot of just crackling fire-like powers. And a lot of people have been dealing with this for a while. They all thought initially that it was just maybe like volcano, dealing with like a volcano, like the volcanoes, or small eruptions that they couldn't really explain. But this was definitely not that. This was all made by this one person. And he had these magma-like powers. These magma-like powers have become an issue, but were also part of the reason why they have land in Hawaii. But at the same time, they are dealing with some very, 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 very bad things now, being that he wants to basically destroy the cities that are currently there. And Izuku, well, he stands tall, ready to face him with cameras literally everywhere. And frankly, this is going to be the perfect time for Izuku to show what he truly is, or what he's trying to at least reveal what he is, and that he stands tall in the face of danger, and he begins going blow for blow with a person that is made of full-on magma and obsidian. And it seems like he's extremely durable, but Izuku chips at him over and over and over again. And as he protects these towns and protects these villages from getting burned to the ground, he shows off insane strength and eventually takes the being and he beats down and throws him directly into the water, creating a small little tiny island, like a very, very small little landmass, and eventually would knock him out and would secure him with some quirk canceling cuffs, and everybody would cheer. They would all begin to chant his name, but chant his hero name, Homelander. And the news and many other sources would begin talking. Did Japan make a mistake? They just got rid of what looks to be the next great hero. And it seems as if they lost him because of disputes, because he wanted to be a hero too fast. It seems like Japan has lost a good one, and it seems as if they're going to regret that in the future. But for now, the United States has another solid and amazing hero right next to the Lady Star and Stripe, Izuku Midoriya, or Homelander and Star and Stripe are the next big things in the United States, in which everybody would believe this to be absolutely true. And they begin to do press tours and other things like that to basically show off what they are and what United States is truly going to be. And on top of that, making it so that crime drops drastically. Crime drops almost to the ground. Like, it is almost completely gone. And everything is going what seems to be extremely well in the United States. But then word would come from Japan months and months and months later of something terrifying. Something that it seems like people have been keeping tabs on, but Izuku had no idea of, and that is Shigaraki gaining an overwhelming sense of power. And on top of that, well, it seems as if, well, everything is going bad in Japan. It seems that Shigaraki, the League of Villains, and many other things have been basically needing to be taken care of. And let's just say not many people are alive for it, but it seems as if everyone else, except for Shigaraki, is under capture, and Shigaraki is the last one standing. But this is no normal Shigaraki. This is a monstrous being, a terrifying being, someone that could even take down the likes of Star and Stripe and Izuku Midoriya. But with them together, well, there might be a chance, because let's just say Izuku may not be liking the idea of heading over to Japan, because they have to deal about their own worries. But it also seems like Star and Stripe is committed to the idea of helping her lost or her long lost mentor, or her mentor that she sees as her mentor, as being that of the symbol of peace, All Might. So she decides to fly off with jets and helicopters and all the above, to take on this Shigaraki, and she wants, well, Izuku Midoriya or Homelander to join her as well, in which Izuku would nod and eventually agree, thinking that this would be a good time to then set off, take down this final villain, and then basically cement himself as the true #1 hero, not of just Japan, but also of the United States. A smirk would go over Izuku's face as they fly off, and it seems like has something in mind that many others would not think of, and many others would not believe he would even do. But now it's time for the battle between Star and Stripe, or the battle between Shigaraki versus Star and Stripe and Homelander or Izuku Midoriya. Now, who will win in this battle? This battle to basically save Japan and the entire world. This battle that will either cement Izuku as basically the #1 hero in the entire world, or cement him as someone who was just so close or on the cusp of being one of the greater heroes, but fell at a young age. Well, you'll have to find out what happens in the next part and the final part of What If Deku Was Homelander. Izuku Midoriya and Star and Stripe head off to Japan. Now, Izuku would have been or is born in Japan, but there's a little bit of a different feeling when visiting once again. Now, when they arrive, they hover through on stealth bombers and jets and all of the above, and they begin to see the carnage that was all happening because of one person by the name of Shigaraki. Now, initially, Izuku, or Deku in this case, or Homelander, he believed that Shigaraki couldn't have done all of this. Like, how is this even possible? Like, seriously, last time he saw Shigaraki, he was shaking in his boots, pleading for his help. But obviously, this is not your normal Shigaraki, and when they would arrive, it would be proof that he is no normal Shigaraki, not even close. Because even Star and Stripe recognizes that this guy right here, he is powerful. And it seems like he has gained powers above your imagination. His regeneration is off the charts. His powers in general are off the charts. It seems like he's gained powers similar to All For One and so on, in which Izuku is shocked to hear this, but it seems like Star and Stripe has a plan. She looks to Izuku and nods her head, saying that after this, after all this is said and done, he will be the one to lead them. He will be the one to be in control, and he will be the one to not only lead Japan, to not only lead America, he will be the one to lead this entire world. Now, this is when Star and Stripe begins to use her quirk against Shigaraki, as Izuku tries his best to help out to the best of his ability. She makes world orders, she creates different opportunities for Izuku, and she flat out creates different chances for Izuku to damage Shigaraki. But nothing is permanent, and it seems as if Shigaraki's main goal is to, well, get the quirk that Star and Stripe is currently utilizing. And that is a scary, scary, scary thought. Because Star and Stripe has one of the most powerful quirks, if not the most powerful quirk in the entire world. Her quirk is a different level of powerful. And that's the only reason why him or Homelander or Izuku and Star and Stripe are able to stay in this fight for as long as they do. It seems as if Shigaraki is on the back foot for the majority of the time, but once Star and Stripe tries to go for the killing blow, it seems as if when she deems the one Shigaraki the one to basically die for the most part, it doesn't work the way she thought it was going to work. Because Shigaraki's identity and who he is as a person has been in the gutter for a very long time. Shigaraki doesn't even know who he truly is, and Shigaraki, well, he is no longer the same person he once was. But luckily enough, they're able to sustain for the most part. They're able to figure some things out for the most part. And, or Izuku and Star and Stripe, I mean. And they're able to somewhat keep up with Shigaraki, but luckily enough, well, our Star and Stripe has another plan on top of the fact of trying to kill Shigaraki through a world order. But luckily enough, her plan this way will actually work, because when she sets up, when she gets ready, and Shigaraki finds his opening and touches her directly on the face, to not only take World Order, or New Order. Wait, I'm pretty sure it's called New Order. Okay, sorry about that. But y'all understood what I meant. So when Shigaraki tries to go take Star and Stripe's quirk, New Order, when he goes to take it, well, things begin to change drastically, because her quirk begins to actually fight throughout Shigaraki's body. And when this happens, let's just say this was a big green flag and a green light for Izuku to go in and start taking out Shigaraki. And this is when Shigaraki is at his absolute weakest and his absolute, well, most vulnerable. And Izuku is flat out barraging Shigaraki with everything he has. His laser vision, his fast punches, everything you could possibly imagine. That's what he's utilizing, and that's what he's doing. And it seems to be deteriorating all of Shigaraki's regeneration. It seems to be deteriorating everything that's keeping Shigaraki at bay. And soon, Izuku would basically wind up one final laser beam, one final eye beam laser that is going to incinerate Shigaraki's last bit. And as he charges it up, as he shoots his vision, his eyes glow red, and it seems like he screams in pain, wanting to let loose all of the power that he possibly could have, screaming as his laser eyes consume Shigaraki and burn away the rest of his body. And with New Order at work, canceling out the regeneration, canceling out everything that Shigaraki is holding slowly but surely, it seems as if Shigaraki would fade to dust, and there is no regenerating from that. Izuku's eyes would begin to continue to burn bright as he looks into the sky, as rain would come down, as the rain would basically turn into mist as he shoots the lasers toward the atmosphere. Finally, he's able to close his eyes. but when he reopens them, he could barely even see. His eyes cloudy, seemingly taking so much out of him to just laser Shigaraki to absolute dust. And he would stand there as he looks toward the stealth bombers and the jets and helicopters, and he would say it's done, that it's over. He would slowly fly over to one of them as he would collapse, and one person would get him inside one of the jets and fly him off to a facility that is as close as possible. And luckily enough, let's just say they are really lucky that they didn't lose two of the strongest heroes in America because of Shigaraki. But with the death of Shigaraki and the extermination of villainy in Japan, it seems like Japan will be at peace. But for now, it seems as if Izuku is down for the count. Some time would pass and he would recover. Izuku's eyesight would be restored, but there would always be a little bit of a blurry spot from the overusage of his laser vision. But he was able to basically make a full recovery, and this is the most he's ever been hurt, or the most he's ever been just wounded in general. But this would lead him to walking outside of the hospital where it's heavily guarded, but as he walks outside, he sees a crowd of millions and millions of people. It's as if it's a giant concert of some sorts. He would slightly fly up to see that the millions of people, well, they're crowded on block after block after block. It goes almost forever. And in the United States, everybody is screaming. Everybody is excited. Everybody is chanting his name. Chanting for Izuku Midoriya. Chanting for Homelander, as rings of Homelander, as they chant Homelander, Homelander, over and over again, ring throughout the entirety of the United States. And it seems as if they're not alone, because other countries saw what occurred, saw what happened, and they deem him the greatest superhero alive. A smile would grow over Izuku's face, as even the president of America would want to instate him more in the decisions of the day-to-day life of the American people, and he is even going to be more involved in government there. But on top of that, it seems like there's a celebration going on in Japan, and it's time for him to fly off. As he does, and he arrives in Japan, it seems like there's heroes, citizens, and many others waiting for him. And they're all chanting his name as well. Chanting the name of Deku. Chanting the name of Izuku Midoriya. But more importantly, chanting the name of Homelander. The alien that arrived on Earth that is now, well, just like them, but also was willing to sacrifice everything for the safety of all of them. Everybody chanting, everybody cheering, everybody saying that it was an honor to even work with him. A lot of the heroes actually believing that maybe his ways were the right way, and on top of that, maybe they should be listening to the one and only Homelander a little bit more. And as everybody says these things, as everybody is talking about this idea of trusting Deku or trusting Izuku Midoriya, Homelander, it seems as if a smile would grow wider on Izuku's face. It seems he got what he wanted, and that was control. He got everything he desired. He got every last bit of it. He got exactly what he was seeking after, what the whole experiment was for, and the fact that he started as a quirkless little kid was something that was insane. But he takes it even further. He thinks about the PR people, making him out to be an alien and all of these things. And then eventually, he says something to everybody. Japan and even the live broadcast that goes out to the entire world. He tells them that he is no, alien. He is no superhero. He was born on this planet without a quirk. And, he lost his mother. And let's just say he was a abused experiment for so long, and he was hurt and all of these things, but now he's gonna come out. Now he's gonna tell everybody what happened, what occurred. But even through all of those trials and tribulations, through all of it, he still stood tall. He still was here to protect everyone. He was still here to protect the people that are just like him. No, better than him. And everybody would cheer, thinking that this is insane, that he was forced into saying all of those horrible things, saying that he was an alien and this and that because they thought he wasn't going to be accepted. And this would just warm everyone up to Deku even more. Warm everyone up to Izuku Midoriya even more. And Homelander seems to be going worldwide throughout the entirety of Japan, entirety of America, and even across countries and states all alike. Everybody is now knowing who Homelander truly is, a person just like him or just like them that had to go through hell and still protected the people he cared about. And that's exactly what the image of Homelander is now, and exactly the image that he wants everybody to think about. But is that truly the image? Is that real? Is Izuku Midoriya truly the person that he's trying to portray himself as? No, of course not. Izuku Midoriya is someone that is trying to gain favor no matter the cost, trying to gain favor no matter the situation, and that's exactly what he's doing. Yes, he saved a bunch of people. Yes, he saved everybody, but we all know who the real hero is. Star and Stripe, hands down, is the real hero. But Izuku was there to help, to sway, and once he was labeled as the number one at the very top, let's just say now things are going to be different in Hero Society. Things are going to be exactly as Izuku Midoriya wants them to be, because control was exactly what the scientists, was the PR people and the companies, that's all they wanted, was Izuku to have control, or, well, for them to have control. But guess what? With the revealing of what happened to him and all those things, Izuku is now on his own, solo, gaining all of the glory, all of the wealth, all of the congratulations. Every last bit of it goes to him. And that's what matters. Or at least that's what matters to Izuku Midoriya. But with that said, that is the end of What If Deku Was Homelander. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you all enjoyed the series. I know it wasn't, the longest series in the world. I had some creative direction that I wanted to go by. But if you enjoyed, as always, please show some love to the video. And also, leave a like, leave a sub, all that stuff. Comment what you want to see next. I have not 100% sure what the next series is going to be, but we will see. I do want to go and start doing a little bit more on this channel. I kind of want to do Monday through Friday. So that's my goal for this week. I want to try it out, see how I feel about it. But the goal is Monday through Friday. I'm trying to get my entire schedule figured out because I am going to be moving here soon in the next coming month. So I'm trying to figure out a perfect schedule for me personally so I can just transition perfectly from uploading content, move, and then still be able to upload content. But of course, I will keep you guys in the loop on what's going on, probably through the community tab. Now, with that said, though, hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all you have an amazing day. Later.